And the Wyoming Cowgirls are going to beat Boise State. And that man right there just hit a milestone. How about Joe Legerski and what he's done, his 300th win.
Did you always want to be a basketball coach?
No, Kevin, I wanted to be an accountant. I came down here to the University of Wyoming, and that's what I thought that where my path would take me. And then after my sophomore year, I had an opportunity to coach Little League Baseball and really enjoyed the coaching, and that's where he got started. So I came back down and changed my major, and that's what started it all.
Through the years, who has been your biggest coaching influence, would you say?
Well, I think when I played, there was a gentleman, Spiro Veras, was our high school basketball coach. And just the way he went through things, he was basically a legend here in the state of Wyoming, and you learn so much of how to handle people. And then I was fortunate, Chad Lavin, former coach here at the University of Wyoming, gave me a chance to coach at the college level, and I was able to learn a great deal from him. And then last but not least was Elaine Elliott at the University of Utah. I went over there and worked with Elaine for 12 years and really honed my skills of, one, how to prepare, how to view the game. We had great success at Utah, and I'd put those three people, all great basketball minds, all had a way to view things, and I just took the best from all of them and put it together for myself.
So then how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
You know, my philosophy, it's always been you can win, and kids can get accomplished what they want to accomplish in life. You know, with even this current group, we talk about how I have architectural engineers, molecular biologists, nurses. What you want to pursue, we can make it work for you, and we can still have some success with basketball.
40 years, what drives you to keep doing this?
You know, I've never viewed it that I work. That's, you hear people say that sometimes, and I look at that I get to do what I really enjoy, and that's coach. And I've made a living doing it. I always said there was no money in it for coaches, for athletes, for anything. You just did it for the love. And I think I've been able to maintain that, and that's what keeps me going. Being around young people always makes it feel like it keeps you young, and that's the part that I really enjoy.
You know, maybe those winless junior high days helped this, but when you came here, Wyoming didn't draw 200 or 300 people at Cowgirl games. It was not a big deal. You've made it obviously a huge deal in this university, but in the state. How did you do that, and was it almost a daunting task?
You know, Kevin, when we ended up getting this job, I would just remember my wife. We talked about that we had to create value, and I knew they gave tickets away, and that was the first thing that we worked on, is trying to make sure that it just wasn't free. And we always talked about, if anything's free, it always seems good to begin with, and then pretty soon it doesn't matter to you. And so that's what we started with. And then we started thinking about community and going out in the community, and had players that bought into the system, wanted to be out, and I think the biggest thing we ever did was signing autographs at the end of a game. I may be the only coach in the country that does not talk to their team after a game, but we sign autographs for every fan. And then I look back in the 2007 team that ended up winning the WNIT championship. That really, we filled this building, and that was pretty special at the time. And I remember we ended up winning the championship. We had the ceremony. We go to leave, I go to media, and I'm thinking, my players are going to be gone. And they all stayed around here for 90 minutes signing shirts for everybody that wanted a signature. And I think that's embraced them. We've continued that, and now we end up having 2,000 to 3,000 people show up, and it just seems we become a part of the culture of Wyoming athletics.
You know, you mentioned her, your wife Jamie. She played for the Cowgirls and she bled for Wyoming. And how does that? Did that help your career to have her with you?
I think the biggest thing is you really need a very supportive spouse to be a coach. They have to do so much. Basically, she runs the family. I remember when I ended up getting this job, after receiving the job on a Friday, I'm at work on a Monday. And she has to sell the house, pack it up, move the children. So much she had to be a part of. So I always look at she's as much success of this program as what we've done. She sits courtside on the other side. And I remember early in my career, I had to tell my players, when she's yelling at you, you cannot turn and start looking for advice from Jamie on that side. And Jamie would just laugh, and now she tells the players, just listen to me, but don't look at me because you'll get in trouble. And so it's been a great relationship for what we've been able to accomplish, and I say we, between the players, my staff, and most importantly, Jamie Legerski.
What's your favorite type of player to coach?
I think the one, when I look back at things, the one that gives everything they have to maximize their ability. And I think that's when I look back, the Wyoming fans really appreciate the player that does that plays hard on the court. For me, when I look at it, our system, we really like players that can shoot the three. It's something that we have done, and but more importantly, I like somebody that just says, I'll commit to the team. And one of the things we always talk about is there's no individual success without team success. And so when we get the buy-in from the players, and I think this year's team is a prime example, our strength is numbers. And when I always talk about that, it's that everybody steps up. It's not about how many minutes you play. It's about what you bring to the team. And I truly believe everybody brings something to the team. I know everyone wants to play, but sometimes the most valuable player on your team is somebody with very few minutes. But they're just such a glue person to what this whole program needs.
We all love him, but talk about your relationship with G, and you guys have gone through all these years together. It's a very special relationship.
Yeah, Gerald Mattinson and I grew up together. In fact, my brother Bob and Gerald were in the same class, best friends since the age of 12. So when you take a look at that, we've been friends for almost 50 years. Ended up coming out of Rock Springs High School, was an All-American at Casper College, went on to Weber State, and did just tremendous things. And Gerald's just a great coach, but had always coached men. And when I got this job, I'm talking to my brother Bob about trying to fill a staff. And I said, you know, I need somebody on this staff that can flat coach, because I believe Wyoming is a building program. You have to develop players. And so we mentioned Gerald. And I says, do you think he'll leave his principal's job and just come coach? And he says, well, you better give him a call if that's what you want. And talked to Gerald about it, and he's been here the whole time. I always say the players look at him like he's their grandfather. And some days he's grumpy, some days he's caring, but most importantly, the players think the world of him, and that's very important in the system.
All this that you've done and being from Wyoming, how important is that?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, Kevin. It's because I know what this university means. I get emotional when I think about that. Every school has its challenges, and yet the Wyoming fans will drive 6 hours to see the Cowboys or Cowgirls play. And I think the WNIT, when we filled this building at 15,000, people were standing in line for 2 to 3 hours to get in, because back then we didn't even have assigned seating. So you think about that, and the Wyoming fans have made this special. They've embraced me all the way through, and that's a pretty special thing when you get to that point.